Going live on Facebook, YouTube. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to 5M. My phone is letting me know that I'm going live as well. I want to say happy Sunday to you. And of course, this Sunday is a pretty special one. Happy Valentine's Day. Yep. So if you're on Facebook, go ahead and drop me a line. Let me know if you can hear my voice clearly. I was having a few little mic issues the other day. And let me put up the banner. I forgot to put up the banner too. Let's get this banner thing happening. Can't forget to put the title of the show in the broadcast, you know. Create a banner, enter, add banner. Boom. Welcome to, gotta always get this right. Welcome to the 5M Fellowship. As I have fun like a kid in a candy store with different features. It's good to see you all here today. I'm excited, as always, about another day, but definitely excited about today for several reasons. You know, 5M, this is the first time I've been able to do this 5M series in a couple weeks. Excuse me, just came off a vacation and just taking care of a few things, and excited about this experience, because this experience is always it's a woo-saw experience for me. What is a woo-saw experience? Yeah. So always excited about that. That's self-care. Self-care. I'm also excited because I've been thinking about some things related to this 5M concept, and I think I have an idea in my mind right now, which I can go on the record here to say for the first time publicly, I think is going to be my absolute greatest contribution to humankind. And I know that that's a mouthful, but I really do. The way my life has flowed as a creator, a creative, an artist, is where when I have certain ideas that come about in my mind, they fall into different categories. You know, some fall into the category of things that are, I would say, teeny tiny ideas that are cool little things to think about here and there. And then there's the really decent ideas, and then there's the monumental ideas. So I think that my first most monumental idea was fruition music. And for those that are hanging out with me here on Clubhouse, you know that's right in the bio, top line. And everybody hanging out with me on YouTube and Facebook, you can just Google fruition music. But that idea exploded. It was a global idea, and I could feel it when I first had the download. I could feel it. There's a significance to it. It was like right there in the moment, I could feel the idea and I could see the whole future of the idea just unfold right in my mind. The first time that happened, it was amazing. somewhere in January of 2006, I'm in my first apartment. I've already started to make a living as a musician and be fortunate to do that for, at that point, at least about a year. And I was sitting there looking at my skills, my production skills, my musical skills, what I went to school for with engineering. And I started looking forward and seeing like, okay, with all that I know, now that I've gained all the things that I wanted to do, I achieved my dream of going to school for audio engineering. I was able to start securing my future. And I already had a job at 21 years old. Just got a job. Full-time musician. So now something that was a pure playground for me, a place that was all about just where I found my first love, would now be the place where I can make a living? Are you kidding me? And that's just the thing. There was no kidding involved. That's exactly what it was. So from that opportunity, I would find myself in my living room, sitting there, having the decision in my hands for what I wanted to do with my life. And that I could do whatever I wanted to do and that it would come through. Because I had all the skills and I had the confidence, the know-how, and I was only 21. And so this idea was downloaded to me. I was at a place where instrumental music spoke to me really deeply because I had been in the instrumental game for some years. And then my ears were opened up to new forms of instrumental music like jazz and classical and gospel and funk and all these things. And so I was trying to figure out, what do I want to do with all this together, plus having audio engineering skills? It's like, I want to keep making tracks. You know, I like these. Not only do I enjoy making tracks, but people love my tracks. Whew. So much love. This is something I do well. This is something I'm affirmed in. And I have the opportunity to choose my destiny. Something that not everybody gets the opportunity to do. And so over the course of 6 to 7 minutes, I would have a download of a whole company that would come to mind, all the branches and everything. And I saw it in that 6 minutes. I saw 6 years worth of that company in 6 minutes. And that happened to be Fruition Music. So now I sit here with another idea. And that idea is that this concept of 5M is about to go into an app environment. And when it goes there, it's going to take on new legs. I finally figured out how to take my entire personal brand and all the things that I've been doing in all the various places, bring it to one experience. An experience where you'll feel at home right from your home screen instead of having to search for me throughout other environments only. Music like this that you hear in the background, the experience will open up immediately with that, so that immediately you get the chance to de-stress and just be at home within yourself. It will be an experience like nothing else, and something that doesn't come from just having different places scattered abroad, even though all of them are great. YouTube is great. Facebook is great. TikTok is great. In fact, LinkedIn is great. In fact, you'll still be able to link to all those through this. But this would be the portal, though. It's going to be called the 5M Experience. The app is going to be available for Android and iPhone. Excuse me. From your home screen, you'll be able to see an icon that's just a big number 5, and next to it the letter M. It's probably going to be like a deep navy blue and white. Like, I actually designed a logo for this 5M experience. If you type in 5M Aaron Hill on Google, you'll see the images. It's going to be that image, but I'm going to have it professionally done. But the 5 M's in this app are going to be music, movement, meditation, mindfulness, and mantra. And every day you'll be able to start your day with things from those different categories. Every day you'll be able to have something to wake up to, as well as to see you through. To share and to teach you a few things here and there. Things about self-care, maybe even natural hair. But the beauty in it is that you won't have to go to randomly different locations to pull all of that experience together from your boy. It'll just be all in one place. So I'm excited about it. This brainstorm hit me 2 days ago as I was sitting at my computer, and as I was happily adding my Spotify, Apple Music, iTunes, and Amazon link to my music page, like where it was right on the album pages, so that everything could just be in one place there. And I was happy about that. But then I got to a point where I got to a meditation that I released that's out, and it's out in my store, but it's not in Spotify and Apple Music in these places. And that's just because it's a part of an ongoing project. But I put stuff out as soon as I release it, because I believe more in the experience than people having to wait around for some unrealistic perfection, all that kind of stuff. And so, but the gap though was still there, where you'd have to go here to get one thing, there to get another thing. And I was like, man, there's gotta be another way. It's like that app. That's where it's at. So y'all can look out for that. I just wanted to give you all a quick, just idea, just what's on my mind during this time. So yes. So we're here, 5M Fellowship. And I want to thank you all for hanging with me. And I'm just hanging out here till about 11 o'clock. I'm going to talk about a little bit of self-care. Actually going to play the piano over there. In fact, I think I might jump into that in this next segment. And so Not All the Way says, smile, give them all you got. Ain't no need for playing with your hands. Ain't no wrong way. You claim your way. Stay blessed, stay safe. Let God guide you. Appreciate that. Oh my goodness. And it is so nice to see you. So nice to meet you. So good. So this piano piece that you're hearing in the background is called Home. And it's from my album called Key Reflections. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into another musical segment within this experience. And that's going to be where I share from the piano. I want to say hello to my brother, Meyer. What's going on, Meyer? You're coming right at the right time, bro. Just about to get into some piano music. Meyer, how's it going, brother?
I'm good, man. How you?
Oh man, I am well, bro. It's good to see you, man.
Good to see you too, man. I just hopped on here. I'm like, yo, I need to throw some social. I'm like, oh, that's what's up. Aaron's in the building.
Yes, yes. Oh man, that means a lot, bro. Yeah, it's really, really good to see you, man. And yeah, it's been a great morning so far. I just got to the portion of this experience where you came in at a real good time because I'm about to play some piano, man. And I think this might be the first time since you've been with me, bro, that I would play the piano live on the show, man.
I think so. I'm here for it.
Yeah, man. So it's so good to see you, bro. And yeah, I really hope you enjoyed this. I'm gonna be hanging out here until about 11. So I'm gonna hit you all with about maybe 10 minutes of music, and then we're gonna chop it up about some self-care, bro. So good to see you, fam. And hey, Amber, Delia, good to see you too. Thank you all for hanging out. So I hope that you all enjoy this. What I'm gonna do is one of my favorite elements to be in is pure improvisation, to play from the heart, to express from the heart without any pre-planned start, if you know what I mean. That's improvisation. That's full improvisation. And so I'm going to flow, and I hope that you enjoy. So I hope that you all enjoyed that. If you did, by all means, you can come up to the stage or you can open up your mic. That was a song that was my, I guess you could say a tribute to a good friend of mine. So my good friend Coco Lorraine Vera shared with me a song the other day, and it was beautiful. And she played it on the piano, and I showed her this one little chord to put in there, and it's just, I was like, this is a beautiful song. And so that just came back to my memory from an improvisational standpoint. And I can't wait till she hears it, actually, because I think she's going to really appreciate that. And just because it is a really beautiful piece. And I don't even know what she calls it. And I think it might be maybe I Love You or something like that. And so, yeah. But that was an improvisation. And Myra, what'd you think, bro? Could you hear that?
Oh, yeah, I heard that perfect. Man, I love that. I was vibing out.
Thanks, fam. Definitely appreciate that. Definitely. Hey, David, and hey, Amber, Delia. It's good to see you all. If you'd like to come to the stage, by all means, you can. Hanging out in the 5M experience. About to actually continue on with this flow and get into some self-care stuff. And so I have a self-care journey that I've been on since 2019. And I found this particular part of my self-care journey through an app called 10% Happier. 10% Happier is an app that's filled with courses dealing with mindfulness and meditation. And so this is an app that you can download to your phone. And it's something that has not only helped me for these last, year and a half or so since I've been into it, but it also reflects a lot about who I am. It even reflects a lot about what I was saying earlier. If you all were here hanging out, I was talking about even this new thing that I think is going to be my biggest contribution to mankind and humankind, not mankind. I hate to lead with that male dominant shit. My biggest contribution to humankind, I believe, is going to come in the form of an app that's called the 5M experience. And so this app that I'm telling you all about now, the 10% Happier app, had a lot to do with even what brings me to that place. So it's filled with really good courses, and I'm a type of person where anything that I learn, I'm going to pay it forward. So I came up with lessons from this course, and this is where I've been sharing from as far as my self-care writings. So today, I'm going to talk a little bit about let's see, where do we want to go? Okay, let's go here. Give your inner critic a break. Give your inner critic a break. Many times we make our daily stress more stressful by adding in a layer of self-judgment from our inner critic. We are human beings capable of succeeding and making mistakes. We don't want to add to the emotions of making a mistake with negative self-talk loops. I mean, that's something right there. I could just pause on that for a second. Those negative self-loops. You don't want them. You don't want them. So how do we deal with the inner critic? We give it a hug. We show it some love. We stop judging it and we just treat it with compassion, because many times it's just us wanting to be our best selves, or it's us dealing with the judgment of someone else. And those two things, they can really be a lot. So we have to be gentle with ourselves. The inner critic wasn't birthed with you. It was birthed before you. And be it what it may, it was just passed to you from someone else coming through. And either growing up in the same way, or just not knowing how to transfer it, not knowing where to get that source from to pass it on. So Not having the inner critic is something that's super significant. How do we deal with it? Give it a hug. Give it a hug. Show it some love. 3 phrases to use regularly to reprogram. May I be free of stress. May I find some ease. May I be well. May I be free of stress. May I find some ease. May I be well. There's a difference between healthy evaluation of yourself for things that need to be changed and negative, debilitating, unhealthy self-judgment. There's a difference between those two things. And sometimes there's a thin line between those two things. But there's definitely a difference between healthy evaluation of yourself for things that need to be changed and the other side, which is negative, debilitating, and unhealthy self-judgment. So extend compassion to yourself to help with de-stressing. Examine your stress and your stressors without the stories attached to them. Examine your stress and your stressors without the stories attached to them, just the emotion or response you feel in the body from them. And that's interoception. When you're in moments of meditation or moments of reflection or moments of just allowing yourself to decompress, just take a breather. Always in those times, no matter how short or long, with appreciating yourself and extending gratitude to yourself for intentionally putting in that time and effort towards your self-care. And when I say self-care, I just mean like, if you know you need to air some shit out, if you know you need to just take a breather so that you can be well, take a walk, like whatever it is. Just fill your gaps in between those moments with moments where you can appreciate yourself, extend gratitude to yourself for intentionally putting in the time toward you and your self-care. Stress is one of the primary reasons people start meditating a lot of times. Learning to appreciate our own efforts towards happiness helps us to cultivate a much better and friendlier attitude towards our challenges. And that quote right there was from one of my favorite authors, 7A Selassie. So this whole deal about giving your inner critic a break. I think the most fascinating thing about this subject is the fact that it's such a thin line, and sometimes you don't realize what side you fall on. You know, sometimes you can't figure out, am I being too harsh on myself? Or does this make sense with where I'm trying to go? Am I allowing other people's, all the judgment and all the things that was put on me, the pressure that was put on me, am I allowing that to go forward? Am I putting it on myself too? Or is this something that I really do want? It's not just that other people want it for me. Am I going in this direction just to fit in and not be judged? Or do I really want to go in this direction? I really don't give a fuck. Where do you stand? What side do you stand on? That's always the question. And that's always the journey. And since the destination is the journey and the only goal is to continue to just get better at figuring yourself out every day in relationship to this question, this pondering, this thought, then that's not only where we end, but it's also where we start. We're just trying to figure out how to be better at that day by day. So with that, I want to open up the floor. I want to open up the room and get your thoughts on these ideas. When you think about the self-critic, where do you find yourself on that journey? Have you found yourself to be overly critical, or do you think you're in a pretty good place? Have you had to get rid of some bad habits, or are you in a pretty good place with how you stay on yourself? What's your thoughts? So I'd like to open up the floor. I don't know if you all have any thoughts, Meyer or Dalia, but I'd love to know how you see and deal with your inner critic.
I mean, I got a pretty ruthless inner critic.
Right.
I don't know how he does it, but 24/7, 365, he doesn't take no naps.
Right.
He's a little bastard.
A little bastard he is, right?
Yeah.
A little bastard.
I know he's doing it from a place of love, though. He's just got our best interests at heart.
Yeah.
So he just wants us to succeed. And I think it's like rooted in a protector part for me.
Right.
Kind of deal.
Right. Right.
But I just try to I don't know. I'm figuring out the answer as I go.
Well,
it's time.
Right. It's interesting, bro, because one thing I think about immediately as I hear you speaking about it is when you said, he has a best interest, like it's coming from a loving place. And it's interesting because that is true. But what's so interesting about it is you really see, like, with that version of ourselves, with that character, with that part of ourselves, you see like the limitation of love, right? Or
for sure.
Yeah, like right. Seeing something that kind of looks like love, but at the same time, if you really look at it, it's like this shouldn't feel this way if this is love. Like,
That's a good point. It's a toxic relationship with self.
Yeah. And it's interesting because it's always just that process of figuring out one thing at a time. But what I find like so interesting is it comes down to really things like, am I being too hard on myself, or is this level of judgment or this level of, critic justified? Like, I always find in some way it comes down to that, because, and then you think about like, okay, well, what are my intentions, and, how do I feel within this? Do I really feel like I should be doing X, Y, and Z? Or do I feel like I don't want to be judged by this person if I don't do X, Y, Z? Do I really want to go in this direction? Or is it that I don't want to be looked at and, seen as an outcast? Or is this really this important? Or was this what I was always told? And because the person who told me that didn't know any better because they were told that, is that the reason why I feel this way? Like, it's always such an interesting, I think, like, thought process that it comes down to, because I really feel like that's where the answer lies. So I don't know if that,
No, that resonates. I dig that. I think it's like, it could be a mix of like, because there's definitely a degree of, it's pass it on, and it's like broken telephone, and everyone's like, yo, you gotta hustle,
Right.
And then on the other end, it's like, that inner part of you is like, oh, well, you could be working harder.
Right.
At the same time, it's like crippling you, because it's telling you that all the time. And it's like, well, you know what? I could be working harder if you helped instead of shit on me all day long.
Right. Right.
I'd have more energy that way. I'd be more motivated.
Right.
Gotta rewire it.
Yeah. And then sometimes it's like, man, I could be working harder, but actually, fuck you. I don't need to be working harder. Like, I'm doing, this makes me feel good right now. Like, this is good for me. I dig this. It's just so interesting how that other side, how it plays so many different positions, and like I said, I always like to just explore the topic of the root of that. I'm curious, Dalia, How does that stack up for you, Dalia? When you think about this question of, the inner critic and, how you work with it, how you deal with it, how you consider the thoughts that are coming from that inner critic?
I think they're pretty fair. I think my inner critic is pretty darn fair. It's just
Okay.
Shut the freak up.
You could tell me how you really feel.
I'm like that in a lot of aspects of my life. Like, I may be right, but I just don't let ish go.
Right.
And when it comes to your self-critic, it's so exhausting.
Right.
That to do the right thing, it's like, yeah, I know you're right, but I'm so tired of you listening to you complain.
Right.
It's sapping all my energy.
Right. That's what Myra was saying. That was what Myra was echoing. Like, motherfucker, if you would okay, damn, I understand what you're saying, but damn, if you would chill out, tone it down a bit, maybe we could get some things done. Yeah, I definitely feel you on that, Dalia.
And I'd be like, I know, but given my situation, this is going on. I'm in an emotional place, blah, blah, blah. I'd be arguing with it,
and it's just that never-ending battle. That never-ending battle with the inner critic. How do you have times? Do you all have times where you say, "Okay, you're right this time," and other times where you're like, "No, fuck you, you're not right this time"? Do y'all have that split, or is it always right and it's always like what we're saying here? I mean, I find that I have a split. At times where sometimes I'm like, okay, yeah. Other times I'm like, nah. I'm actually good. That judgment is not true, actually. I don't know if you all had those times.
That's when you're dividing between the internal critic that's actually your inner truth versus what the world is telling you. When I'm honest with myself.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Luna, okay.
Oh, Luna. I want to say hi. Hi, Luna. I don't know if she can hear me on the speaker. I don't know if she can hear us on the speaker. Oh, that's so sweet. So,
I keep my headphones on.
Yeah.
She wanted to jump on her bed in the crib.
Right.
And she was just like, I was like, you don't want to lay down, you just want to jump. You want to trampoline instead? Nah, I want to jump. Okay, I go about my business. She's like, no, I won't.
That's hilarious. I think about what you just said, the inner critic versus the world. And that's peering into what I'm, I guess you could say the foundation of what I'm getting at is some of those, the quote unquote world is now, it's the world, but it's also now our world. We've accepted that world. So it's two halves of a whole, which is why I find the inquiry process is so important. Asking yourself things like, okay, say you wear something and you think about it am I wearing this because I want to wear it? Or am I wearing this because I think that this is what's required me, or this will get me X, Y, and Z? And then I think that I've been just somehow duping myself to believe that that's important, to have that approval or to have that validation or what have you. And even those times when it doesn't seem like it's coming from outside of you, it seems like you really feel this way. But then there's the other half of you that's like, So it's an interesting dichotomy that I find in those situations. But go ahead, Maya. What were you gonna say, bro?
I was just gonna say that the split for me gets better and better the more time and energy I put into therapy and figuring myself out, myself on the hook. Because it started 100%, oh no, whatever the voice says is right.
Right.
And now I'm at a place where nah, well, people get rest.
Right.
People, so I need rest.
Definitely feel you on that. When I think about, I think about something else with this inner critic. Recently, I was working with my daughter with telling fibs, telling lies. And so as we were talking, I was trying to get into her mind of how does it stack up for her so that I could reverse engineer it, and so fortunately, while we were talking, she gave me a metaphor. She said, it's like the big fish is telling me to do one thing, which of course was the wrong thing. And the little fish with the smaller voice, the one that's more quiet, is the one that's telling me to do, the right thing. And we talked about her part in that process. But what I found, though, in talking to her was her inner critic played the part of this big fish that was not only saying, do these things, but also saying, like, having those judgmental thoughts, those self-deprecating, those self-judgmental thoughts. And so it was just interesting just hearing it come from a child and just looking at that same thing, like, wow, we all have these inner critics, and they have big voices, they have small voices, and we're always trying to figure out, what is this inner critic saying? Is this inner critic correct? Should we listen to it? Is it working towards our greatest good, or is it over, harsh, whatever? So it's just an interesting topic. I want to say hello to Heather. Hey, Heather, how are you today? So good to see you, as always. Good to hang out with you. Right now, we're chopping it up about the inner critic and just how you work with your inner critic. What do you have a strong inner critic? How do you deal with it? Is it right? Is it wrong? Most of the times, what's your inner critic? So if you care to share, by all means, and if not, if you're taking over the world and you don't have time, by all means, hope that you continue to enjoy the conversation. But yeah, so you guys, Amber, I don't know, this is, I guess, something that would be to your future as far as Luna. You might come across these times where, you start to notice, as she starts to make decisions, you start to notice how she deals with her inner critic, just in why she does things, why she doesn't, what she's thinking about, how she's seen, if she is thinking about other people's opinions, it's always an interesting unfolding. But the beautiful part as a parent is that you get a chance to guide that process by helping them at a young age, by not being overly critical, by gently leading them away from things if you need to lead them away, and not doing it in such sharp and stern ways that it makes them feel bad, in addition to just saying, oh, this may not be the right thing to do, that kind of thing. So it's a very interesting process. I want to do a quick reset of the room again and say hello to Missy and hello to M. Great to see you, and great to see everybody here. Right now, we're talking about this concept of the inner critic. I just read from my self-care series, and it was about giving your inner critic a break, and that many times we make our daily stress more stressful by adding a layer of self-judgment from our inner critic. We're human beings capable of succeeding and making mistakes. We don't want to add to the emotions of making the mistakes with negative self-loops. And so we were just talking about that and where those loops come from, where they're implanted, and how we deal with them today. So if there's anybody who wants to come to the stage, by all means, definitely very curious about how you work with your inner critic. Good morning, Heather. How are you today?
Good morning. I'm doing good. Hello,
yes.
everyone.
Hello. So good to see you. Happy Sunday. Oh, and I forgot to reset the room and say happy Valentine's. In fact, I forgot to wear my Valentine's clothes. In fact, if y'all give me about 15 seconds while we're chopping it up with Heather. In fact, let me see. Can I cut that time down? Can I cut it down? Yep, I cut it down. Okay. So if you PTR, now I have my Valentine's clothing on, and now I can go forward in this experience like I need to. Good morning, Heather. Good morning.
Morning.
How you like my new outfit?
I love it.
So yeah, so we're here. We're talking about this inner critic and just how it stacks up for us, how it fares out, whether we have a strong inner critic, whether the inner critic is mostly right, whether it's wrong, whether it comes from it being implanted in us, or it's, blah, blah, blah. So what do you think about this as far as your inner critic?
So for example, do you mean like, oh, that's so stupid, like I shouldn't have done that, or I could have done it this way, that sort of thing?
Like, how do you deal with self-judgment? Do you
I try to not do it.
Right.
If I do catch myself doing it, then I correct it.
Mm-hmm. Right. So do you think that there is a difference between like self-judgment that's positive and self-judgment that's negative?
Yes.
Yeah. Right. I definitely feel you on that. So where would you say what divides the two for you? Like when you've done something and you're reflecting on it, or you're reflecting in the moment, and that divide of like where it's positive self-judgment and negative, like what's the mark? I guess you could say the benchmark. How do you decide what side it falls on?
I try to keep it as positive as possible, even if it's something, I guess, that would be, that I think might have been negative. And
right.
So I just try to turn it into a positive, or just accept
right
the negative and move forward.
Right. I love that. One of the biggest reasons why I love that is because that is very, very, very much my own formula as well. When I work with something, good morning, Missy. When when I'm working with myself, I'm very much the same, where if I do something that is something that I either regret, or I would change those actions and do it differently the next time, and I will, or what have you. I go right into it. I look for my part in it. I look for what can I learn from this, to help me to not do this again. I go into it really quickly, and I inject the lesson into it and then pull it back out. And then I go from there, and I don't hold myself, I don't hold it against myself ever. I don't stay down about it. I accept it. I realize again and again that, different things happen. This is the process. This is how you learn. You have to touch a hot stove in order to know that it's hot at least one time. Like, you got to at least one time burn yourself a little bit just to know how to avoid it better. So, yeah, Heather, I just say that to say, my reality is a lot like yours in that way. A lot like yours. Missy, how does this fare out for you when you think about your inner critic?
Good morning, everyone, and happy Love Day.
Good morning. Happy Love Day to you too.
Thank you. So I was sitting here listening to Heather and you, and this happened as much as recently, but I've been this way for quite some time. But I guess now in the seasons of my life, it does nothing more than bring me more adrenaline.
Right.
And this is when I place myself in a space that I, quote unquote, feel that everyone is bawling more than I am.
Gotcha.
Right? So when I go into a meeting or a space here recently, different committees and different settings and platforms, including Clubhouse.
Right.
I'm hearing, they come up to the stage and all these lots and lots of businesses and just constant pushing through. And, here I am. I come, here my bold self come up on the stage.
Yes.
And, and I'm stating, because I feel like what I bring is value.
Right.
What I bring, my coaching business, I feel just as strong.
Yeah.
However,
your worth.
I know my worth, right? But let me explain something. I'm human too, right? So it does give me a little I'm not going to use the word intimidation, but the inner critic does come as like, you know, am I not doing enough? Or, you know, all these people on the stage and they got, you know, this, that, and the third, and people are applauding them and the mics are going off and they're asking them questions. And then when I get on stage, I don't hear as much. So if anything, my inner critic, it's like that whole left side, right side, not the double angel thing, but the left side, right side.
Yep,
the left side's like, you know, what the world are you doing here? You know, this, that, and the third. My right side is, no, I want you to stay here. I want you to learn. I want you to chew the meat. I want you to spit out the bones. I want you to, you know. So I this last few seasons of my life, because of where I am and where I'm pushing my branding of my coaching business,
right.
It's placing. I guess I am taking the inner critic bull by the horns now,
right.
And I'm saying, you know, though, this is what you're going to do, because it's going to be there.
Right.
You know, the inner critic's going to be there, but now I want to take charge of it, because it took charge of me for so many years, right?
Right.
And I'm going to take charge of it now and tell it what I want it to do.
Right.
And a part of that is me like boldly going into you know, places I've never gone, and standing my value and own, you know, speaking up and sharing who I am and what I do and so on and so forth, and not being, you know, fearful of believing that I'm not bringing the excellence and the value that I have versus others who have 2 and 3 businesses, been doing it for years, can make a da-da-da-da-da-da. Not, you know.
Yeah. You're not,
how I feel about that.
Yeah, you're not. I love that. You know, you're not allowing comparisons. You're not allowing any kind of comparisons to start to rule your mind. You're focusing more on what's true and what's within you that you know that has nothing to do with anybody else's standards or statures or anything else, other than things like what you know about yourself, who you are via self-awareness, what makes you happy. What your strengths truly are, what sets you apart, who Missy is, like just purely 100% who Missy is, you know? And so I love that, because that is very much an example of what it's supposed to be and how we're supposed to experience it. That is the process and the progress. And that's the journey. That is the journey. That's the destination. Even you just continue to grow in that more and more and more and more and more and more until you know that 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 you know. You know what I mean? It's that.
And I'm excited because, you know, I'm moving towards 50 years old, and I'm loving the next decade that's about to come, because I know I'm going to be in a different season even then, right? So I'm looking forward to it, knowing that inner critic. Thank you for this platform, by the way. This is a great question, a great topic.
No doubt.
Yeah. Sorry, somebody was calling. Just the fact that my next decade and my next realm it's going to push me, and then again, to the point, that critic is going to be there, but I want to tell you what I want you to do.
Right.
You know, so I appreciate this. This topic. Excuse me. Yeah.
No problem. Let me tell you something else that was interesting to me about what you said, and this comes from being a secular humanist. You said as one point you said, I'm human too. You said, but I'm human too. And it was interesting because what I look at, especially from studying psychology, is like what you just broke down is like the whole of what a human being is. It's like we have that side of us that, you know, many of us call the higher self, and, you know, have all kind of different names for, that is that affirming, that optimistic, that understanding true reality, that compassionate one that has self-compassion on oneself, you know, that side that's self-reinforcing, that side that is immediately forgiving, that side that knows all that it means to be human and to have our fears, but to also have our strongest moments of triumph and confidence. Like, it's all part of the package. You know what I mean? It's all in that one package. And like you're saying, what I see is all we continue to do is to just keep shifting to that frontal lobe human being, that frontal lobe human side of us, that part is still a part of the whole. You got the yin and the yang, it can go one direction or another based on the motivation, based on the intention, based on the environment that it's in, based on the friends that it has and the influences that it has around it, based on what it takes in through its eyes, through its nose, through its ears, through its mouth, like based on all these things, And so that's why I love being able to talk about this, because what you really find when you just step back and look at those two sides of what it means to be a human being, you start realizing how much of this is the you now, the evolved you, the you that's not dealing with the past painful situations, or not under the same roof before where all your dreams were clamored, or not with the person who, downs you more than they lift you up, or the other side, where you come from an amazing environment, but now you still have to take life into your own hands and figure out who are you. It's that process, it's the continuation of that process. So yeah, I thank you, and I really enjoy what you just shared, because I appreciate seeing people's process, and I really like how you're working with your inner critic.
Thanks, I appreciate that, and again, thank you for the platform. I think it's just on point. As we move into continued untreaded waters, right?
Yes.
And now that we are in a great way, in my opinion, being forced to tap in to talents, gifts,
right,
and passion. With that's going to come that critic, that inner critic. We were dealing with that on the job, if you will, essential employees or whatever the case may be already.
Right.
Now we're tapped in even more to stretch ourselves from a talent, skill, passion perspective because of where we are right now. So the inner critic becomes louder,
right,
and it's now how are we going to manage him? We need to it's like managing that piece. So
yeah. I'll tell you this, and I love that you said this, because this is another thing I think. Sometimes is that the inner critic becomes louder, and then other times I think it's that it's the same volume. We just choose how much we're going to allow in our ears.
Word.
And because when I think about it, like on a deep level, right, I'm like, oh, wait a minute. When I think about my journey and I think about the difference between how I feel now about being myself, all of myself, nothing to hide, and I think about, say, 2013 when I started my Facebook group, and it was called Let's Talk Universal Spirituality, and it was a private group where 600 people were in it. And I went by an alias, Peace Jones, and everybody loved me, and I was happy. It was great. And then at some point, I was like, yeah, I don't even like. I loved. In fact, this alias was like cool. It was like I was a superhero. It was cool as shit. Like it wasn't even. It was amazing. But at some point, I was like, yeah, this was great. Now I'm ready to just live my life. I don't have the fear anymore of what will people think. And then I lived my life in a different way, and when I look at the level of noise that was going on when I felt that way versus when I transitioned and felt a different way, the noise didn't up or down. It's just that my ears were more closed to the noise that I didn't need to hear. And then the other thing happened too, because I cared less about the noise and I lived my life even more on purpose, it quieted a lot of the noise to where the noise became noise that I didn't hear because nobody was trying to make more noise, But I realized that many times it's not that the noise gets louder. It's really we choose to either let it fully in, or we choose to start turning within and going away from the noise and just saying, you ain't got to go home. Yeah. You ain't gotta go home, but you gotta get the hell up out of my head though, because you ain't helping me.
Listen, that's
Woo!
it.
Oh man. Oh, Missy, I'm high fiving you. That's a moment right here. It's just, oh my gosh. You know, I have this thing here where I have another lesson here that's in that same self-care, my self-care journey where this comes from. And this is more so dealing with compassion, you know, the basically how we see ourselves through this journey of the dealing with the inner critic. Compassion is, and actually, I want to find the self-compassion. Wait a minute, because I wrote two of these, and there's one on self-compassion that actually I want to do because it's more direct. Let's see, I'm gonna search for it on. Let's see, and like I was telling you about earlier, I'm actually going to come out with an app that's based on the concept of not only this room, but my entire life and the way that I live my entire life across social media, where people know me from all the different places in the way that they know me, but through an app, and it's going to be called the 5M Experience. And this was a brainstorm just happened 2 days ago, and like my entire life is focused on this right now. And I'll be telling you all more whys as we keep going. But here's, let's see. Okay, here's one I wrote on September 11th, 2020. Self-compassion isn't about weakness. It's actually about strength, honesty, ownership, accountability, patience, understanding, and balance with oneself. Being the boldest and bravest version of yourself. Stepping up to the plate to self-care, embrace, and be so understanding of yourself that you can then be the best that you can be for first yourself and the world around you. Self-compassion isn't about weakness, it's about strength.
Yeah, it's deep.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And what I'm going to do, in fact, especially since we have 3 more minutes, I'm going to go ahead and copy this. I'm getting ready to reshare this. I'm going to put a picture up. It's going to be my very first Instagram post in a few minutes. In these last 3 minutes, I'm so curious of anyone else to share and to add to just these thoughts, especially with how it's unfolded here. I would love anything that you have to add to this inner critic conversation or this self-compassion conversation. So what do you all think? I guess, Delia, what does, if I could, what does, when you think about self-compassion, you know, how does that stack up for you? How would you define, you know, self-compassion or your relationship to it? Hey, is that Luna? Oh my gosh, that is self-compassion in a nutshell right there. Oh my gosh. Hi, Luna.
Luna gave mommy a hug. Oh, thank you.
Oh my goodness. So cute. She said, hey.
Your quote is that when you speak the truth,
right.
Yes, that's a kitty. It's almost like who's arguing? Who's the straw man that you're debating? Of
right.
course it's not about weakness, but then the straw man that you're arguing with is the person's behavior. It's like now that you brought it to the forefront, that seems obvious to you, but you act like you didn't know.
Right.
So, people act like, they can't be compassionate for themselves.
Mm-hmm.
You want down?
She said, get down. That was so clear. Now she is clear. She is so clear. But yeah, I definitely understand what you're saying. I think about self-compassion as a thing that you have to learn. I believe that, you have to learn how to have self-compassion. You have to be taught it, because you can either be taught to be self-compassionate or to be, very self-judgmental. And many people come from environments where the self-judgment is very, very strong because their relative, whether it's their mom or their dad or what have you, they grow up in a place where they were judged really hard and really strongly, and so they just pass it on down. So I think about that, and this self-compassion is something that's really important. Anybody else self-compassion thoughts? I'm almost finished putting up this Instagram post, so
I think it's just like a muscle, really. It's like something like an atrophy if you don't exercise it.
Right.
But that's pretty much my final take on it.
Right.
Yeah.
No doubt. Self-compassion is so important. All right, so I'm going to read these thoughts to you all, and then I'm going to put this up on Instagram, and we're going to close out the room on that. All right. So again, and I'm just going to read the last one that I did as really just one more final closeout with it. Let's see, where were you? Facebook. Self-compassion isn't about weakness. It's actually about strength, honesty, ownership, accountability, patience, understanding, and balance. Being the boldest and bravest version of yourself, stepping up to the plate to self-care, embrace and be understanding of yourself, that you can then be the best that you can be to first yourself and to the world around you. So on that tip, I just want to thank you all so much for hanging out. 5M Fellowship. I'm really excited about this, and look out on these platforms. I'm going to be talking about it every morning from now on, as well as on my other platforms. This 5M Experience app that I'm about to build. I finally figured out the answer to everything that I've been doing on all the platforms, but how to bring it into one experience in the way that I've been trying to. So I'm excited to share that with you all. Heather, I love your pic. Wow. Yeah. I just PTR'd.
Valentine's.
Nice. Oh my gosh, that's too cool. Oh, that's too cool. And thank you for doing that too, because it reminded me one more time to say happy Valentine's Day to everybody here. I hope that you enjoy. And I look forward to seeing you all tomorrow morning for the AP Morning Show. See you all soon.
Take care, everyone.
Happy Valentine's Day. Happy Valentine's Day. Happy Bye.
You too. You too. Have a great one. All right.